welcome in everybody to the Fire Chat podcast. I am your host, Rich Rice, and today on the show we have Angela Brown, who is actually my mother. So very, very, very honored special guest today. Thanks for having us, or thanks for having us. Thanks for being on the show.
I did have you.
Well, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, so she's
welcome.
the reason we're all here. Say hi to everybody.
Hi, everybody.
So, I'm gonna try and refer to her as Angela. I might hear you just say Mom.
Right, that's going to be interesting.
So Angela is a realtor and investor and has been around, a long time, as far as real estate. And, so we're going to get into a little bit of things today. Obviously this is the Financial Independence Through Real Estate podcast. So we're going to talk about real estate. We're going to talk about financial independence, and whatever in between there. So,
Okay.
Well, Angela, Mom, what, I know you've told me this before, but like you always, right? You always loved real estate. Let's start there. So how'd you get into it?
I did. When I started thinking about getting my real estate license recently, I mean, in the last, so many 12 years, whatever it's been, that wasn't the first time that I had thought about getting my license. So to me, I always had some kind of interest in it, some kind of thought process about it that goes a lot further back to when I was, probably in my 20s even. But I never really pursued it seriously because I was a young mom, had children. I worked full time out of the home. Moving into a commission-based job or career didn't really make a lot of sense for me back then. I wish I had started it earlier, but it was always there. I always did kind of like the idea of it. And so, yes.
And how old were you when you bought your first house?
I was 19 and a half, I think. I was very young. My parents, helped us. So they pretty much bought it for us, if you really truth be told. But it was $60,000, and I think they put $5,000 down. And that was our first home and our first mortgage. And I've always owned a home since then.
Yeah. And
again, without really giving it a lot of thought, I just always was interested in the field or the real estate, genre.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, you just said that, like, you always owned it. I'm like, yeah, we really did. Like, cause I only remember a very short couple of years that, we were ever in an apartment or like a rental then, when you guys were.
And it was very odd for me for those certain years that I was in a rental when you were a teenager, I think.
Yeah. High school. Yeah.
But
somewhere around there.
I almost always owned a home. Other than that, I even forgot about that because it's like I tuned that out because I've always owned a home. And yeah, it is something I love. And I love that about real estate, even being a realtor, just teaching people, having those experiences with first-time home buyers and first-time home sellers, things like that. There's just everything about it. I'm very in love with.
Yeah. Yeah. So like what, and I mean, I don't even think we've ever really had this conversation before. So like what was it about real estate? Like, did you have a love for houses, for people that were buying them? Like what what was it? Like, what was your attraction?
And I don't even think I've really thought about it,
and
seriously, thought about the ins and outs of it. I've noticed about myself in more recent years that I really do love helping people, and real estate allows me to help people with something really major happening in their lives. I never felt like I wanted to be a teacher or anything like that, but I've thought about teaching in real estate, because I've gotten to the point now where I'm on the phone with new agents that are in my transactions. And I love that part. I love helping them, but I also love educating the home buyers and the home sellers. And so I don't know that it's necessarily about the houses.
Sounds like we're going to have to get you up on stage pretty soon.
Yeah. But I have not thought about the serious, implications behind it all ever. Like, I've never really thought it out. But I did come to realize in the last couple of years that I really enjoy the aspect of the people involved and helping a homeowner or helping a home buyer. I really like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So because I've never, if I'm really like thinking back to, my childhood and like, I mean, you guys, obviously you've been in and out of house. I mean, you owned a kitchen remodeling company for how many years?
That was like 10 years or something
you
like
know,
that.
so you're very, you know, you've been in
Homes. I've been in
and,
homes, yeah.
you know, for a long time and or many years. So
Mm-hmm.
like did like design or anything ever like really, or like the house itself, it was just more of the people?
Yeah, I know. I mean, I've been in a lot of homes. My parents always owned a home pretty much as well. Growing up years for me, we never really were in rentals except maybe when I was a baby. My first memories of the first house they bought in Brooklyn, I still can picture that house. And my dad being in the kitchen remodeling or just remodeling industry, always remodeled those houses. But then they would sell and move to the next house. I feel like I've gone through a lot of houses, but it wasn't really so much a love for the house. I don't know. It was just the home, that's making a home and being somewhere that you owned.
Yeah.
It was just something that was, part of my childhood. So it seemed normal to
Well, and I guess
continue
part
that
of mine
on.
too, that,
Yeah.
I mean, you guys kind of, I mean, we moved quite a bit. I mean, I feel like we probably, I don't know, what was the longest place we stayed in, 5 years maybe,
Yeah.
maybe less. You guys were always remodeling or doing something. And I guess the apple hasn't fallen too far from the tree.
Because you're doing that.
I haven't stayed in one place more than 2 years in a while.
Yeah. See, I don't do that as much
Although
anymore.
I've definitely rented a lot more than you.
Yeah, that's true. You
Not
have.
in the last 5 years, but
Right.
4 years, but
Yeah. Now, being in my home now where I am now with Evan, now we've been there like, I forget.
longer than you were any of the houses that I was growing up in.
I've already forgotten. How
Yeah,
many
like 10 years at least.
No, it's longer than that. 2008? No,
I thought it was like 12.
2009.
Oh.
See, I've already forgotten.
Yeah, see, so like 15 years.
Yeah, 15 or 16 years. And it's so
And what's funny is
long.
you actually haven't really remodeled that
No.
too much. No. I mean, you've done a couple of the bathrooms, but
We put new countertops in the kitchen and redid the cabinets. But
Yeah.
even that was years ago. I know that is funny that you say that, but
Evan's not really the remodel type.
no, he's
Not in his own house.
Not right. We do it so many other places that.
Yeah, I know. I get it. I
Yeah.
get it. I mean, we've tried. That's why we moved more recently. Was that we were going to start putting way too much money into this house that just didn't need it. I mean, it needed it, but it wasn't the return.
Didn't want to.
I don't know. I could have gone either way, but that's a whole other conversation. But so obviously, when did you? I didn't know that. I didn't know that you wanted to be or thought about being an agent in your 20s. That
and
was,
it
I guess, was that
actually-
before the kitchen company?
It
or?
was a long time ago, and it was Aunt Lisa and I talked about it. Don't know why. Could still picture the little real estate agent company, real estate office next to Java Joe's in Yorba Linda.
Oh, really?
So I'm talking a long
Yeah, that
time
would
ago,
have been-
and
well, that
they
was
had like an
after or during New Kitchens. then.
Yeah, they had a little advertisement, about getting your license and everything. And her and I were like, we should do that, And so even later,
The
much
seeds
later,
were
when I
sowed.
got my real estate license, I tried so hard to talk her into it that it always stemmed from that. Because like we talked about that as almost like a plan at some point many years ago. Maybe I was in my 30s, not my 20s. But yeah, it was just something on my radar again. But my life and what was going on in my life always prevented me from, in my mind, from having a job. It's still a job that was commission.
Yeah.
And that's where I stopped myself from pursuing it.
Yeah, and I get it. I mean, there's, even in my own life that, I could have very well gone into, the technical side of Hollywood or, or theater or whatever.
Yeah, I thought you were going to continue down
Yeah, that would have been,
path.
I would have made a lot of money, going down that path from.
And you seemed to love it when you were doing it in high school.
Yeah, I always enjoyed it. I felt like I mean, I think it was definitely more like I just, the people.
The people, right.
At the
camaraderie.
time. I mean, it was all my friends and everybody that
You were always gone over there. You were always there.
Yeah,
for
I was
hours
always there.
and-
I mean, it was like a place of belonging. Like, in high school, you're always trying to find that, like, that
Right.
group that you
Right.
feel at home with. And
Right.
and I definitely found that there,
Right.
but
That's what I remember. I remember you spending many, many hours At least that's where I thought you were.
Yeah, I was.
I thought you were.
I mean, a lot of times
At
I
the-
wasn't either,
at the
but
Servite
a
Theater.
lot of it I was there.
Yeah.
Most of it, and but that was the thing. Like, it was like feast or famine. And like when we did shows, we get paid pretty well, and then you'd have to make it last.
Right.
And I guess probably seeing being through some of the financial turmoil of like the family and that during that time was hadn't really want to do that. But especially
Yeah.
once I started working for Hardy,
Right.
that was more of like
A regular paycheck.
like a regular paycheck
Steady.
and steady and kind of going down the corporate path versus the entrepreneurial path. But I guess my roots were stronger than because I ended up going down the entrepreneurial path anyways. So
And I feel like I've always gravitated back to that path, because I've been a worker for most of my life, especially my younger years. But I don't know, once, we were in the kitchen remodeling company working for ourselves, I kind of ran away from all that. Like you said, just lots of things going on, turmoil. And then went to the printing company where I worked for many years and met Evan. But even Evan and I were getting to that point where we were thinking about buying our own printing company.
I remember.
We had gone we were looking at SBA loan. Had been
you picked one out.
Yeah, we had been to several little mom and pop print shops that we were going to buy and go out on our own. Thank goodness we didn't.
Well. Yeah.
Thank goodness. The printing industry is not something I would want to be in now.
Yeah. Well, that's why all those people were selling back then.
Probably. They saw the writing on the wall.
Man, that would be a different life right now if you guys would have gone down that path.
Can you imagine? We talk about that still. Like, can you imagine if we had kept going down that? And I don't remember what stopped us. Honestly, don't. We just...
Something.
I don't know. I think maybe the economy stopped. We started, things started happening in the economy right around the time we bought our first rental house in San Bernardino.
Oh, that was before?
That was when we got the pay cuts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I think everything just kind of stopped after that for us to go buy a business. So.
Gotcha. Well,
yeah.
Thank whoever you believe in. That's yeah, I totally forgot about that. That's crazy. So, so you owned part of Nula Kitchens for the kitchen remodeling company for what 10 something years, 10
like
years. And then obviously you've been now working for yourself again for what, it'll take 10 years now?
Yeah, 10, 12 years. I think I've had my license for 12. I'm starting my 12th year, something like that. So somewhere in that vicinity, yeah. Because I got my license before I quit at the printing company. So I had my license for a couple of years before that.
Yep.
And sold a couple houses, mostly for family, my sisters, deposited the money, so I made sure I had enough money saved up.
Yeah.
And then quit the printing company.
Yeah. So like, what do you think? I mean, that's two businesses, but two very, very different industries, I guess.
Yeah.
And much different. But like, I mean, I would say the business you have now is a lot healthier than the business back then.
Yeah.
What is there like a thing you could put your finger on that like you're doing differently now than you did then, or?
Well, like you said, they're completely different, but just being a business owner is the similar thing. In the kitchen remodeling company, we owned the company, but we were partners with my parents, and I never really felt like it's like I was the business owner or half of the business owner, a quarter. I never really put my heart and soul into it. I don't think. It was almost like another job for me. I did payroll, I did, things in the office, but my dad and your dad were pretty much the people out there. I was just kind of like another office worker, even though I was owner.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So, I think now in being my own self-employed, it's real. It's like different. It's real. It's me. Like I'm responsible for these things. So that much is different. And
Yeah.
and I've embraced it. I think I was young. I don't know if that matters, but I just,
Yeah.
had kids, and again, it doesn't really matter. It was just how I looked at it back then. It
Well,
was
your
more
time
like,
was definitely a lot,
it
more
was more of a
strained.
job, even
know?
though I was the business owner.
Mhm.
That's how I looked at it.
Yeah. And okay. And I mean, now you have, I mean, you really do have like multiple companies. I mean, you have your, and with different, I mean, you have your agent side of things, right? And then, your flipping and investment rentals
Right.
side of things. So, how did like, because obviously you weren't, we'll talk about the financial independence, I guess, part real quick.
Okay.
I mean, you did what so many people here are trying to do, and
Right.
that's get out of your W-2 job
Right.
and either work for yourself, which is maybe not be so much the freedom or the independence part. It might it might be more work
I
than
do
you
work
think.
a lot.
But you got away from the job, the boss. What was that like? Like, what was going through your head when you were either getting close, or like, was it always a goal for you, or did it just kind of evolve? Like, what was that? What was that like?
It did evolve, because at first it was a dream, like the thought of not, I've been working my whole life. So the thought of that, of not, and I literally punched a time clock. We had a time clock at the printing company. So every day, every minute, if I made one call that was real estate related, even because I had my license, I had to punch out and go like take a break. And it was crazy. But yeah, just thinking back on that.
Yeah.
So at first it felt like a dream. It was a goal, but it was like, are we really going to be able to attain that? It felt more like a dream to me. It took me a while to wrap my head around it, because I wanted it. I did want it. I was tired. I was like, no, I want this. And, having somebody on board like Evan, and he obviously, for him, I think, I'm not going to speak for him, but I think it was definitely a goal, not a dream. Like, he knew, So I think that really spurred me, which helped a lot, having somebody with you that's, on board with it all.
Yeah,
but I
course.
still had I still had trouble seeing it. Like I said, it was more dream to me than goal. So I had to kind of switch my thinking around. And it took some time to get to that point, but yeah, it's. What was the question again? Wait, I think I was going down the path.
Like, was it is it something that, like, you I mean, you kind of answered it. There was more of like a dream. But was there like certain goals that you put in, or
right.
hey, I'm going to get to this point, and then okay, wow, this is working. Then like what was,
we were
take
pretty
me through from when it was the dream to where you were getting there, and then it was real.
Yeah, we got serious about it. I mean, we really did, especially when we were in the process of making our very first purchase of a rental unit, and the bottom dropped out from us at the printing company during that transaction. We got pay cuts, 10% pay cuts, both of us. All of our overtime was stripped, and we had a lot of overtime on a regular basis for many years.
Yeah.
So when all of that happened, it just strengthened our resolve. Like, we didn't go the opposite way and get scared. We actually said, this is why we need to do this, because, oh my gosh, like, we can't even control this. Like, we just lost, I don't even know how many thousands of dollars a month. All
And
of it
because you worked at the same place, it wasn't just
and we
one
worked
of you.
at the same place, and we thought our boss absolutely loved us, which I do think he did, and we loved him. But it was, he was
But the reality
making his,
came in of
right. He was making his decisions for his family, right? And we were like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? And I remember it. I mean, literally, Evan, we ate out a lot at lunch, but he started going to Burger King for lunch, and they had a $1 rodeo burger. It was like a burger with a onion ring on it.
Yeah.
Or something. He would get that for lunch. It was $1.
Yeah.
And we started sharing a drink at lunch. People don't think about this now, because they see us now, but we were cutting every penny during that time, and it just doubled down. Like, we just made it even more important that we needed to do this.
Yeah.
And again, my goal, and I've said this before, and that's why I'm saying it. I maybe not have said this on the podcast, but I saved up I got my license and I didn't tell anybody at the printing company at first. I was doing things on the weekend and at nights that whatever commission I made, and it was like, woo, like I had never made a check like that in my life.
Yeah.
Because it was always a regular weekly paycheck. I didn't touch it. I didn't spend it. I put it in the bank. I was serious. I had a year's salary saved up when I quit.
Wow.
And made me feel so much better. And to this day, I never touched that. I never had to touch that money, but I had it there, and it was that feeling of comfort. And I don't know if everybody now can do that, but that was my goal. Like I wanted to have something in the bank that I could rely on, so that if I had to, pay my life insurance, my health insurance, or whatever it may be, or my bills, I could. But we never looked back after that.
Yeah, and I mean, you are you're very financially wise. You're very conservative.
I am.
Person.
I am.
Like you're, for
been.
you to, I
splurge here and there.
Yeah, but I mean, probably most people. I don't know about most people, but probably having a year's worth of paychecks would be pretty tough, or pretty
that's why I'm saying it was.
And for you, I mean, I'm surprised you didn't have two. To be honest with you,
Me too. But because I had it was like two sales, two houses that I got a pretty good size amount. Even, I mean, when I think back on it now, like what the amounts were, it wasn't crazy. It was just something
but relatively to back then. Yeah.
Right. And it made me feel so much better and more confident. And so that was what I would recommend is I wouldn't go quit my job today without having $1,000. I mean, that's not enough. I needed to have something.
Of course. Unless, some people don't have an option. They get the job goes away.
Some people that helps them more to not have anything. I don't know. Not me. I'm very conservative.
Yeah, that was me.
I can't do that.
Yeah. So, what was your first? Tell us about your first house, or not a house, but your first transaction as an agent, like that first check. You don't have to tell me the amount. I just mean
there was a big,
that was your first one, right?
Yeah, it was a big learning curve. I mean, it was a lot going on, and the first two transactions were kind of around the same time, and again, it was family, and it was a lot of things going on with those transactions. That was happening. That even today, I would be like, oh. One had a tenant living in it. I was trying to do open houses with the tenant sitting there. And long story short, she ended up buying the house. The tenant actually ended up buying the house then. And I represented the whole transaction. This was my first transactions. They were kind of involved. But I got through it. I mean, I'm relatively intelligent. I figured it out.
I think you're very intelligent.
I mean, I remember because I worked full time, so I couldn't really talk during the day except at lunch or on my two breaks.
To punch out or run out to a break. Or...
I had two breaks, so if I got on the phone as soon as the break started, I had 11 minutes to talk, and that's how I handled it. I mean, I remember at night I would get home at 6, 7 o'clock at night and work for hours, because that's when I could work. Or on the weekends, and I was doing open houses and all that on the weekends. It was a lot of work, but I was committed to making it happen.
And I obviously, I mean, and that's some of the, I mean, this is kind of the stuff why, like I wanted to do this podcast was to hear these stories because I think a lot of people and a lot of people that might see you now, just think it was overnight or so easy and they don't see the the clocking out, the running to having to go out. You probably had to, what'd you do, go out to your car or a
lot of times I would just step outside the building.
Because if I can remember correctly, they probably weren't very friendly to your,
they weren't. I didn't even really say anything for the beginning because I didn't feel like that would be well supported. I think that I know that people would be like, certain people were just like, what are you doing?
They wanted you to be 100% into the,
right.
To their
the company,
thing, and
which we were for many years. And again, like I said, I
think you really came. And I think you really came almost full circle too. Cause that, when you started there, correct me if I'm wrong, but that was after everything with the business had
The
you
kitchen
know,
remodeling business
all that had gone
was
under,
going
and, you know,
down in
and
flames.
yeah, and
Yeah.
that was almost like
Yeah, I
a
ran
dream,
from that.
like
I
you know,
wanted to punch a time clock.
exactly. That's what I'm
It's like,
saying.
don't call me
you
on
know,
the weekends.
you had none, you know, all that stress of owning the business and doing all that was,
Yep.
you know, you have to worry about it. You just, yeah, I'm here to work. Give me my check later.
When my boss hired me,
You
the
know.
boss at the printing company hired me, the owner, he asked me, "Are you sure this is what you want?" And because he was like, "You're going from being a business owner to punching a time clock," and I was going to get $12 an hour. That was what I started there with, and I was like, "Please, I'm begging you, really, like
Yeah.
I want to punch the time clock," you know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, and I get it. I mean, it wasn't
it
nearly
was
to that
years
extreme,
later
but,
that that
you know, it
we
was like my
started
first
coming
job
around.
when I started working for Disney. You know, I was getting guaranteed hours. You know, it wasn't as much as an hour per hour that I was getting, but
Right.
you
But when you
know,
were done, you were done. You know,
yeah, it was very
nobody's
set
calling
hours.
you.
Like it wasn't.
It's not like that for me
know,
now.
so.
Now I'm pretty
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
I talk to people at all different hours of the day and night, but I can control that. You know, so it's a little bit different in that
Yeah, well,
sense.
that's-
There's no
that's a
time
different-
clock. Yeah, that's a different topic.
You want to pivot to that topic? Time management.
Time. No, I'm very bad at it.
So,
I shouldn't say that. I'm getting better.
but
I'm
I think
getting
I think
better.
it's I think it's an interesting perspective, or I'm struggling to pick the word here, but like that. What was your almost like? It's crazy that like what was almost at one time kind of like your salvation of you know, this job that was just to get, you know, pay the bills, and then became like a
You know,
burden or a chain, like you know, keeping you from real freedom.
Yeah.
You know that.
What's interesting is that I remember, like I said, I went screaming, running from the business, the kitchen remodeling company, to just like punching a time clock, like this is what I want. But then over time, because I ended up being there 14 years at the printing company, over time, as I got to know Evan, he had never, his dream, you know, was to be in business for himself. And the more him and I talked about it, the more I started thinking back to the good things about being a business owner. And I think over time, and things would happen at the, you know, at work, you know, the printing company, that we were like, oh, you know, so with employees, with what was going on. And it was like, you know what, there was quite a bit to being a business owner that was good. And I think we kind of, you know, supported each other and talked our way back into going back to that. And it was something he always wanted to do. And I was like, oh yeah, there's definitely good things about it. My family, my parents were always very much entrepreneurs. So something we definitely believed in. Just took me a while to get to take a
Likewise,
break from it,
you know.
and then
Well, and then part of the, I mean, that was part of the reason, you know, probably why it took me so long to get into it, or, you know, because at the time, I mean, when I was growing up, you guys owned you guys owned a business, you know, that I, you know, for all
came to
intents and
work.
purposes, like I worked there. You know,
it paid for you to go to. You know, we had you guys
know.
in private school, and it paid.
Yeah.
You know, we did well.
Yeah.
For a long time.
You know, but I like, you know, not, I at some point when I was, especially when I was in, I mean, because you owned it until I was in high school, you know, the beginnings of high school, you know, that was my, I guess, plan at the time, was to eventually, you know, be in and take over that business someday.
Right.
And so I think when all that came crashing down, and I saw the mayhem of all of it, not just on the business, but on our family as well,
Yeah.
you know, was like, hell no, you know, like I'm just going to go work for
I think
somebody
your brother
else,
feels the same way.
kind of thing. Yeah. And, you know,
He's told me.
Yeah. That's, I got to get him on here.
Yeah, just work, even coming to work for me now, which he does.
Yeah,
You know,
took him so long.
It took him a while, because the thought of working with family kind of scared him, because we did have a fallout from that. But today, I'm happy to say everybody's good. All the family is good.
Yeah.
Even the exes, and you know, everywhere.
I know,
Like,
shockingly.
everybody's good. So it's okay. It all worked out.
Well, and wait, I was going somewhere with that, but yes, you are right. Like things have definitely repaired themselves for the most part.
You were talking about just the the entrepreneur,
Yeah.
ship of, going from one extreme to the other. Like I went running, screaming from it, then I went running back to it. Being back.
and like I was saying, I guess likewise was that it was something that took me a while to come around to. But we were just talking about it. One of the other members was in here this morning, and recording one of these, and we were talking about just the freedom to work on your own time, like even your own hours. Like if I feel like working until 2:00 in the morning and sleeping in until 10:00 the next morning.
I know it's weird, but it's cool.
It's nice. It's.
I did that last night. I was getting in bed. It was like 11 o'clock, and I remembered something, and I went back into my office at 11 o'clock last night and did a couple more things because I wasn't sleepy yet.
Yeah. Every time I do that, it ends up being 3 a.m.
Yeah, no, it was maybe 30 minutes. Wasn't bad, but it's
check out
because I could have
real
which I did, sleep in a little bit later this morning. It was no big deal. It took a while to get used to that. I remember the first few days after I quit at the printing company, I literally didn't know what to do. I called my manager at First Team and said, it's a Tuesday or a Wednesday. What do I do? I'm so used to going to an office, and having a home office was so odd. And now, I just love it. Some people can't work at home. I'm a workaholic. So, I could work all day, every day, anywhere. But I love working from home, and I could get up whenever I want, stop and watch a movie if I want, or not. Yeah,
and there's, obviously I've, I'm your child. I'm the same way. Like we have this whole building and center, and I have an office in here, and for so long I tried to convince myself that I was going to come down here and be down here a few days a week and work, and I'd rather just be home. I got my whole office set up at home, and I think that's probably why I struggled for so long in staffing. Was going into an office setting. I've never having that sounded, because maybe it's just a grass is greener type of thing, but I did outside sales for Hardy for so long,
right?
But I was burnt out on the traveling and having such a big territory and driving hours and everywhere and having 3 states worth of stores to go to and Home Depots and Lowe's and dealing with managers. I think I was just bored of it, honestly. And then going into an office environment where I could go to the same place every day.
It sounded good.
It sounded good, and having colleagues to talk to, because a lot of the times, you have the store associates and stuff, but they don't really
No, it's
it's not the same company. You're like
I've always made friends with the people I worked in different offices with over the years. I'm still friends with people that on Facebook now because they're out of state. With the girl that I worked with at the doctor's office I worked in Newport Beach years ago before Nick was born. Yeah. I'm still friends with Cora today because her and I were together all day in that office.
Dr. Bohan?
Dr. Bohan's office.
I still remember that name growing
Cora,
up.
she was there when I started.
I can't remember what happened 2 days ago, but I can remember that name from when I was like 6 years old.
That we lived in Tustin at the time, and I
remember the building. Every time we go drive up by Tustin and see that
Superior.
building, I recognize the building.
Where we lived?
No, where you the
where
office
I worked,
where you worked. But I went to I think but that was why I quickly realized that being in an office environment like that was just
not for you.
I've been in outside sales, set my own schedule, set my own I pretty much I worked for Hardy. You pretty much as an outside sales rep. You pretty much almost are working for yourself as far as you control your territory.
Right.
You're not going in and reporting to a boss every day. There would be days where same thing. I would have an event or something late into the night at a thing, and I wouldn't go to work until 10 in the morning the next day. I wouldn't be back in the at 6 o'clock in the morning after I'd been at the tile at Floor and Decor until 11 o'clock at night. So
you had a little bit.
So
of
there was that freedom and that flexibility of setting where stores I was going to, and so I think that was very and then once I went down the path of being in staffing, it was there was,
And then you realize
then
you
it was
don't
like,
want
yeah,
to.
no, like, I mean,
Yeah.
there were certain things that, you know, I'd like, you know, one of the places I worked where everyone was golfing and, you know, there was a lot of camaraderie in that office and, it just wasn't a fun company to work for, but there was, the office was fun. Anyways, like, it's just, there's nothing that beats that freedom, I guess, of,
Yeah, at this point now, I can't go back. I mean, there's no
Yeah.
way I could go back to punching a time clock like that. Just the thought of it would make me ill. Really.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah, I agree.
And
I agree.
sometimes when I'm having a rough day, because sometimes I have transactions that are, going sideways and I'm frustrated, and Evan never stops asking me when those days happen. You want to go back to punching the time clock? You want to go back to the printing company? No, I don't. So yeah, I do. I do enjoy the flexibility. I couldn't for the longest time get it around my head around doing things on the weekends because I was so used to my whole life being Monday through Friday at work and Saturday, Sunday, and the weekends. So I was still like getting my nails done on a Saturday, and he'd be like, "Why are you doing that?" And I finally got out of that. Not long time. It's been a long time now, but in the beginning, I couldn't like. It was so different. I was like, "Oh yeah, I can go get my nails done on Tuesday." At 9 a.m. Like there's nobody there.
Yeah, exactly.
So
exactly. One of my friends,
amazing.
One of my friends asked if they could come. I mean, Jared, they wanted to come on a snowboarding trip and come out and go snowboarding on the weekend and whatever it was. I think it was for his birthday, so like February. And and I was just like, I'm good. Like because we did it the year before, and it was mad. You had to park, dealing with everybody else. And I was like, dude, I could go on. You guys want to come out on Wednesday and Thursday? I'm down. But I'm not. It's like same thing with like Disneyland. They want to come in and go to Disneyland on like a Saturday. I'm like, no, not a chance.
I deal with that with Aunt Lisa sometimes. So even just going to Glen Ivy, I'm like, I don't want to go on Saturday or Sunday. Like, can you take off? If we go on a Thursday, can you take the day off? And she has, but it's like,
that's she loses.
Because she's in that. She's got the job now. So that part of it is a wonderful thing.
But I mean, there's it's not all sunshine and rainbows. It can get difficult. As far as like, what's your? I mean, is there still I mean, we talked about, obviously it wasn't just the houses, it was more the people.
Yeah.
I mean, but to some degree, I mean, I'm sure there's a love there for the actual vehicle.
I guess. No.
If you were just, but could you, I mean, if it not, I mean, what's stopping you from, being a boat agent?
Right. Right. Selling boats or cars or something. Yeah. I mean, it's just the home, probably house, the home, the feeling, the family, the people are so excited. The change, it's such a huge change in people's lives. Even now where I'm pretty much at this point in my career doing a lot of listings, not so much buyers anymore. Even the sellers, it's just so interesting, like what they're moving on to go do, what their dream is, what their plan is, and how that vehicle of owning this home is now going to facilitate their next home or their next move or their next, it's so interesting. I just love that part of it. And I end up becoming friends with 99% of the people, sellers and buyers that I help, and yeah.
So what was your best transaction?
Not you.
I'm a pain in the ass. I know that.
You were a pain.
Which
You
one?
stressed me out. Your first one. Anyone's with you. No.
Not that bad. I'm getting better.
No.
I'm getting better.
You're getting better.
I don't even care anymore. I'm like,
just get it sold. Yeah. So would you ask me my favorite?
Your best one, like
My
what, like
best
the
one.
the one that was like you wish you could do more of. That was, and then you know what's coming. The question after that. So.
I mean, there's been so many at this point. I mean, I think when I looked at the MLS, there's been over 200 transactions that I've done.
Good job.
Yeah, both buyers and sellers sides, but I know it's in that number. So it's hard sometimes to remember back to every single one. And even after I leave today, I'll probably remember it later and be like, oh, I should have said that one, But there's been several that have been super easy. The people were great. I'm going through one right now in Riverside that the guys that are selling they're just wonderful. And the people that are buying it, I don't know them, but just from what I've gathered from the agent, who's awesome herself, and the buyers, they're just everything is so smooth. Like everybody's on board, they want the house, and then I've got another one that's, we'll go into the difficult ones, but there's been a few over the years that have just been such a pleasure because the people are so happy to be buying this particular house. They're so grateful. It's everything they needed or wanted. They're not being over the top, with being, let's say, picky in some ways. I mean, they're entitled to be picky, but
Yeah.
you know what I mean. I'm trying to think if there's one in particular that stands out. I've done a lot for friends and family.
Maybe another one of like, what was the one you're most proud of?
Gosh, that's a hard question. Because nothing is like standing out in my mind.
Like you didn't think it was going to happen, or and you pulled it through till the 9th hour or the 11th hour. Or...
There's been some. I mean, one of them that stands out in my mind was selling Aunt Lisa's house in Yorba Linda after Uncle Joe passed away. That was, and I was still kind of new, at that point, and it was a challenge because he had passed away in the house.
Yeah.
So I didn't know how that was going to go. And when we did sell it, the gals that bought it, they understood and they knew, and but it was hard. It was just a hard, emotional kind of transaction, and it worked out, and I was very relieved, but I was also so happy that it worked out because they were so happy. The buyers, they were thrilled. Yeah. And it's.
But it was daunting to you.
It was daunting to me. I
dealt with that before,
no,
and that being that close to home, really.
Yeah. So that was a kind of a stressful one, but one that I was very proud to get through it all it took a little longer, all that too. It was involved, which we knew, but it was also helping my sister too, so to get it done, and so that I had all that on my shoulders too. Yeah. So I've had a few transactions with her. Getting ready to do another one. So hers have always been a little bit of a, and not, I won't say a challenge, but I feel the weight on my shoulders because I know how much she needs that sale and what's going on. I know all the background, so that's hard.
Yeah, I'm sure those are when it's the family members that are, people think those are probably maybe the easiest ones, but they might be the hardest ones a lot of the time.
Yeah, they're very emotional
too.
So, and I can't let that, factor into the transaction itself.
Yeah, so, for sure. For sure. Wow, 200 transactions. Nice.
Yeah, it's a little over now, 211 or something like that. I think I was looking at that the other day.
Yeah, right on. So let's pivot here a little quick second. So on, like, because you've been an agent obviously, and you've been an investor and on the investor side of things, but for a while there, you really wanted to be. Correct me if I'm wrong. You were kind of focused more on the agent side of things
for a long time.
For a long time. What? And now is that still the case? I mean, obviously we worked together for many years, and we still do kind of, but not really.
Right.
So I don't see your day to day as much as I used to. Are you still? You still seem very, very busy on the realtor side.
I am
of
a
things.
little pissy right
now. So, what's it look moving forward? Do you want, what's your goals moving forward as far as realtor versus investor?
Mm-hmm. I feel like I had a shift a couple of years ago, which I credit to Caitlin. I was just telling somebody this last night at dinner, that I kind of always looked at the investor side as something Evan was doing, not really me. Even though I was reaping the benefits of it and, was part of it, that part to me felt like just, that's what he's doing.
Yeah.
But I'm really the breadwinner. I need to be the realtor. I need to keep working. I need to, and in my mind, and that's what I thought in my mind. And it took me a while to kind of, I don't know, shift around to that. not that long ago, a couple of years ago, maybe even maybe a little longer, maybe 3 years ago, where Evan was kind of like, here's what we're bringing in from the rentals. Here's what we're doing here. Here's what we're doing there. You could, I'm not gonna say that he said you don't have to work, but he just kind of was like, you could slow down a little bit, don't have to say yes to everything. And that was like, oh my gosh, an eye opener, oh, I can't really. And then when we went to Masters in Vegas a couple years ago, and Caitlin and I went along, just for fun. I had never attended anything with you guys. You haven't been going to places.
Yeah, we've been.
And I just, the couple times I tagged along, I just went and hung by the pool for the weekend,
which is what I invited her to do.
Which is what our,
we hadn't been dating that
our
long.
plan was. Or not, that first day, Friday, we went out shopping in Vegas. We walked around. We had a great time. We had a lovely time. But I think that night you called me. You called me in the hotel room and said, I could still picture it sitting there, like getting your call. And she's saying, she really wants to come tomorrow, to the thing.
To the seminar. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. She doesn't want to hang out with me.
I was like, I do it.
No, I actually was like, all right, yeah, let's do it. Can I come too? And it was from then on, I was like, oh, this is what really you guys are talking about.
I honestly forgot about that. But when I remember her saying that, she's like, she throws it out every once in a while. She's like, I got your mom to be an investor.
She did. And here you guys, you and Evan both were, I was part of it, but I wasn't really part of it. Like in my fault, my.
Yeah. And I think honestly that was, and I didn't know that. I didn't know that you saw the, that you had that mindset, I guess, of, because on when we first started doing this all, 7-8 years ago, something like that. I always kind of took it that we were, like we were doing all of it, on the investment side of things. Right. And then, it became more and more clear over the years that
I was still doing my own.
Yeah, like you were doing your own thing.
I was doing both.
And what me and Evan were doing was a different, like we were on the investment side, and then what's funny is you say you're like, you made a breadwinner comment or whatever, and for so many years I was like, yeah, but we're giving you all the houses to list, like what. So it's funny that you see it, from
when I was telling who we were at dinner with last night, and Evan knows this, he was sitting right there last night, but I said, I've had to kind of realize that even though I wasn't doing it consciously, subconsciously, this is the word I use, I was kind of poo-pooing it. Like I was like, yeah, that's what they're doing, but we're never going to make any money. Like I wasn't really embracing it, and I kind of
you weren't. You had no interest. Like
no interest, and I was like,
we would go to these seminars. You never really came, and if you did, I think when we went to Florida that one year,
I sat by the pool.
You sat by the pool the whole time.
Yeah, I think I came to dinner. Evan and I went to dinner with Andy one night, and I was like, okay, I'll go to dinner.
Yeah,
but I just didn't have any much interest in it.
That's
and
so
now
funny.
it's like a door open.
Now,
and it's like my mind is just kind of blown, and now I'm going, what the heck am I doing over here? Like I want to be over there. So
well, because you really, for all intents and purposes, being an agent's a job.
It is.
It's
I still love it. I still have no intention of completely shutting that down in any way. And I happen to be a little busier than usual right now, and some of that's because of you.
Yeah, sorry.
But I've actually turned a couple things down in the last couple of weeks.
Good.
And which was
just
like
don't
the first
turn me
time.
Down.
No, it's just the first time ever I've even done that. And I don't want to do that. It's not, that I'm proud of doing
but
that.
But you have the right.
But I can actually
you
choose.
have to.
I can choose.
That's part of the freedom.
Right.
you know.
That's exactly what it is. I could actually choose to say no to something and not feel guilty. Because I feel terribly guilty when I say no to something. I'm just like, I can't live with myself. And now I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that one. It's a 40% referral fee and a 50-50 split. I'm like, I don't think so.
Yeah. Yeah, and I remember that you just brought me back to like years ago before, you had this revelation. And I remember, I think, I don't know if we ever talked about it. I thought we did, but like, I think there was some point where, we were sitting down one night and because a lot of those leads you were doing where you were, like you just said, like it was they would take half of this and half of that. You were left with like 20%, and I would see the time you were spending on it.
I know.
And I was like,
because it was relocation kind of stuff.
Get one all that time you're putting in like one deal over here on the investment side, we'd make I know way more than
so I've cut way back on that. I actually withdrew out of the credit union program.
Oh, really?
Because I did that like a couple of years ago. Yeah, because it was a 20% referral fee to the company, and it was 20% to the buyers. It was like, it's a whole program, and I get it. But that's 40% out of my commission. That was instantly, just And in the beginning, when you're a newer agent, it's not
like, hey,
so bad.
These listings kind of thing.
Right, it's not so bad. But now I'm like, I don't need, and I literally withdrew from that a couple of years ago, actually.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
And it was a relief.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, because those tended to be the the first time buyers that were the hardest, and
And there were a lot of buyers, so it was a lot of time spent.
they weren't giving you
on weekends,
the $1 million
listings. No
listings. So right on. So like moving forward, I know you got an RV now. You want to spend more time. You have a grandchild and another one on the way. And
I'm really trying to commit to putting my time ahead, my personal life and my personal time in front, of some of the things I've done and not done over the years. But I have a commitment to my grandchild with Nick that I want to spend time with him. I don't like to give that up, and I haven't if I don't have to. Like, other than being sick the other day, that's the only time. And even then, I was going to wear a mask, but Dad's in town, so he ended up taking over.
Gotcha.
But that is like so precious to me. And then and Evan and I have talked about buying some kind of RV for years, and I finally pushed him into it a couple months ago. Like, are we going to pull the trigger, or are we not? Are we just going to
keep talking
be
about
serially
well, now you got it. He's going to have to pull the trigger on
getting me out. I mean, getting me out in it. I've gone out. We've done a couple of trial runs.
Well, shakedowns.
Yeah, but I think we're talking about September. I forget. It's on the radar. Like, we didn't buy this thing to just sit in the street.
Yeah,
So,
I hope not. I hope not. I
No.
definitely, you guys have, obviously, I mean, you've got to do some cool things. You've taken some good trips. A lot of some of these. Good thing about on the investor side of things, I don't ever see you taking realtor cruises. So
No.
I mean, you've been on a bunch of investor cruises and stuff
and
now,
that's been
and
so much fun. So.
I think we have more fun on the investment side, but
I think so too.
But no, I mean, you've definitely earned the right to slow down and pick and choose, and
every year comes around and I say, I'm going to take December off because that's when my birthday is. And I'm going to take my whole month off. And this year I'm like, I'm taking November and December off.
Yeah.
I'm really going to try
do it
to do that.
Do it. All right.
Especially
that's
because
the goal.
at the beginning of November, we have a couple things going on. We're going to Ohio and we're going to Masters. And I want to enjoy those things, which I usually do. So, but I don't want to have anything going on. So that's my plan.
Good.
We'll see.
Good.
We'll see.
Well, we're about towards the end of the time here.
It goes fast.
I know it goes real quick. I mean, we, as you guys could probably tell listening in, we obviously we're related. We could sit here and talk for probably hours.
Yes.
And go on and on, but we'll save that for another
one.
round. Mom, Angela, if people wanted to get a hold of you, either to agents, realtors, just they find you interesting, they want to talk to you more, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
The easiest way is social media. I am on Facebook and I am on Instagram. And shoot me a message, a direct message, or whatever it is they're called. I
slide into her DMs.
Yeah, I'll see it at some point during the day.
What's your alias or at or whatever?
I think at Instagram it's Angela Brown Real Estate.
Okay.
At Angela Brown Real Estate. Facebook, I think I'm on as Angela Rice Brown.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got
So Instagram at Angela Brown Real Estate. Make it easy for him.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah. That's
all
probably
right.
the easiest one.
All right. Well, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Yeah,
Sorry it took me so long to get on here.
I know. It's all right. It's okay. We're going to make up for last time.
Okay.
But again, thank you for being on the show. This is the Fire Chat Podcast. Again, I'm your host, Rich Rice. If you want to be on the show, you can check out firechatpodcast.com. Again, that's firechatpodcast.com. We do it right here in our studio in Riverside at the Fire Center, where we host multiple real estate investor groups like the Inland Empire Real Estate Investment Club, SoCal Exchangers, and a bunch of other ones that are coming out pretty soon here. So you can check all that out at firecenterhq.com. Again, that's firecenterhq.com, or you can just do any social media at firecenterhq on anything, and you can find us there. So we do weekly events and education, networking, all that good stuff. Hope to see you out to an event soon. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Have a great one.